To reiterate something said earlier, last week while we were in session, Kathy was shown something from the other world. In other words, she has some revelations about where we are on our journey. And what she saw in the scriptures was not why she was reading the scriptures. It was something that was said that resonated so deeply with her. It revealed to her the meaning of some of the verses in Revelation and I think Luke. However, I'm going to ask her if she would share that with us because it speaks directly to where we are on this journey, and it also speaks to us about our responsibilities and obligations. So as she presents, she has seen to us, I ask that we be reminded that we are our brother's keepers and our brother's teachers, and therefore we're asking you to share in this discussion with us based upon what you see and questions that you may have. So, Kathy, with you, please.
We are our brothers and teachers.
I didn't hear it.
Yes.
Repeat that.
What's that, George?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a question? Or was it clarity you were seeking?
No, I'm sorry. No, my apologies. No, go ahead.
No, it's no apology necessary. Okay. Yes, our brothers keepers and our brothers teachers.
Thank you.
So. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me start by saying good morning. And as I'm preparing to lay out what I've heard and what I've seen from the other side, I am coming to you saying that I do not have all the answers, and I know that. I know what I heard. I know what I've been shown. I know what I see. And I hope that as we go into this discussion today, it will open you up so that it will resonate deeply on the inside of you, and that you will see not only this, but even more. We're going to talk about a couple of things today, and I'm kind of like, I like, and those of you who know me, I'm very much a note person, but I'm in a position this morning where the majority of this is written on my heart and not on a piece of paper, so I'm definitely out of my comfort zone, but I trust the Creator, and I trust what I've seen, and I trust what I've heard, and I trust what I know to be the truth. And so as I lay this out for you today, I'm prayerful that as you hear it, you will raise questions, and that we as the teachers and those that are understanding it will be able to chime in and take us to a place of even more deeper understanding, simply because what I'm seeing right now is every lesson that has been taught on each night, whether it's on each day, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, it's like an overlay, and each lesson fits hand in glove, and it takes us to a place of deeper understanding. And so with that being said, we're going to talk about some things today. We're going to talk about, first of all, what the kingdom being in us means. Then once we lay that foundation, we're going to move from that foundation to understanding when we talk about the number of man and the mark of the beast, what that really means. Because when I'm learning about revelation, every time we teach, it's revelation. And revelation is what I'm learning. It is those spiritual truths that are hidden in plain sight. And it resonates with you when you open yourself up to seek. Then it opens itself up to show you even more. And so that's the foundation that I'm laying today. And how did I arrive at this first place of looking at kingdom? We have talked about the kingdom, and Sheldon did a wonderful job of praying about the Lord's Prayer. I'm teaching the Lord's Prayer and a womb and laying all of that foundation out. Then we spent all of these weeks looking at another powerful lesson on looking at Barabbas and Jesus, and all of these things fit hand in hand. So the other morning, a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't sleep. It was like 3 in the morning. So I got up and I got my book of Thomas and I read the third saying. And as I was reading the third saying, it said, I'm not going to read it to you today because I'm not teaching from Thomas today. We're going to be looking at Luke 17 and 21 and Revelations 13, 16 through 18. And I'm going to take my time because you all who know me, I get excited when I see stuff and I can easily rush it. So I'm trying to take my time and lay a foundation that makes sense and be able to take it slowly and get the questions in so that we can see what's being shown. So as I'm looking at this verse 3 in the book of Thomas, it talks about the kingdom of heaven is within you. And as I was reading it, it also talked about the kingdom of heaven. When I read the narrative, it's not only in you, but the kingdom of heaven is all around you. And I didn't know what to do with that. I read it that morning. I read till about 4 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put the book down and go back to sleep, and I did. But that lesson I've been telling Pastor and Ron and Linda that this thing, the kingdom, it just keeps coming back to me. What is this kingdom that's in me, and what is the purpose of having this on the inside of me? What is this? And so as I continued to look at this, I don't know what happened. On Sunday, as the teaching was going forward, I took a pen and paper and I just sat down and I wrote those 2 scriptures that I just gave you. And all of a sudden, just from writing them, nothing else on the page, I began to receive this understanding of some things that I thought we already knew, but it took us to a deeper place where I began to see and hear and understand even more. And that's what I want to share with you today. So as we go back to kingdom, and the kingdom being in us, and the kingdom principles being on the inside of me, but the kingdom also being all around me, I began to ask myself, what does that mean? Because we know the scripture says that you are in this world, but you're not of this world. And it dawned on me, and I'm not going in any particular order here, I'm just talking this out. It dawned on me that if I am a citizen of the kingdom of womb, I find myself laboring under the kingdom principles of the established government. And as a result of that, I get lost in the translation of who I am and what I'm supposed to be seeing and what I'm supposed to be doing, because I get caught up in the narrative of what I see happening around me with the government and the church and the stance that it is taking right now, and how all of the laws are being passed and all of these things are being done to make it harder for the African or for the man of color to even know where he fits in the kingdom. And I hear people say we love the country that doesn't love us back. And if I stop at that narrative, and if I stay right there, then I miss the whole understanding and the whole evolution of my journey to where I am now and where I'm supposed to be going and what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm about. So what does it mean when we say that the kingdom is in me? Well, I have to go back to Sheldon's lesson when he began to talk to us about the Lord's Prayer. And like we said, when Sheldon was laying that foundation, this is not a how-to thing. This is all spiritual, and it's an introduction into a spiritual journey. That's why there is no blueprint for where we lay it out to say, hey, you do this, and this is going to happen. No, all of these things are awakening the third eye. What we're doing right now is giving you spiritual understanding, and as it resonates in you, it impacts your individual journey, but collectively it impacts us all because we are the one yet many. So as we begin to lay this out and look at this, the first thing I went back to is our Father, Mother, Father of the universe, of the womb. And I think I said that day when one of the times when Sheldon was teaching, It starts with understanding that each part of the word, each syllable of the word of womb means something. And I want to lay that foundation this morning before I move forward. And please feel free to stop me at any point in time and ask questions. So when I am meditating, and I am meditating on a womb, what am I doing? And I want to lay out for just a moment what that means, and then how connected I am through the energy and power that is a womb. So when I look at the that speaks to the absolute only being, the pure oneness and unity, the source of all power and stability. The BW is a birthing and a creation, a flow of blessing from oneness to us. When I look at the double O is breath or spirit that carries the flow, echoing the sound of breath and including all focus, including that links us to the Holy Spirit, the Holy Breath, understanding who we are. And the N is vibrations of the creation, breath from oneness, as it touches and penetrates form. These vibrations move and change substances. So when I look at and put all of those syllables together, a boon, what I feel is the vibration of energy and power and light and all life intelligence that is absorbed in that word of womb and the power of Father. And as a result of that, I began to understand it is that source of power, that source of kingdom understanding that vibrates in me when I sit with and meditate with the understanding of womb, the oneness. So when I began to move forward and we began to look at the kingdom, one of the things that resonated with me that I had never thought about, why is the kingdom in me and what is the purpose of having the kingdom in me? As I began to look at let your kingdom come, let your divine counsel and parental advice, let me become so intimate with oneness with a womb. Let me be so intertwined with you so that we are just one breath, that I birth your will into this realm. So when you begin to understand the kingdom principles are in you, this is not an isolated event. Kingdom principles are not how I establish and run just my household and those that are impacted in my immediate family. Kingdom principle is about establishing the mindset of righteousness on the inside of me that governs every aspect of my life and bring it into the consciousness realm of everything that I encounter every day. What am I saying? Being so intertwined with our womb and being so connected to the point that we're so intimately connected until I birth into this realm the will of God, the will of womb, father, mother. Questions or comments?
I have a comment, Kathy.
Okay.
I got to looking at Kingdom and saw some stuff that kind of got me excited. I agree with you about of the understanding and the uniqueness and the connecting with a boom is the key. And I see it the same way. I just explain it a little differently, I guess. I see it as having an opportunity every time to return to beginning. So that's what a boom does. It's not only father, mother, and breath. It takes you back to the womb. It takes you back to creation. And that's in itself is talking about a new place of awareness. So when you look at Kingdom and show you how what you said about the lessons, I remember when we first started looking at the Hebrew letters, and we didn't understand anything. We were looking at Kabbalah and the Zohar and some of that other stuff, and how foreign that was to us. And then one day, just out of the blue, and S hadn't taught a lesson in months at that time, if I remember correctly. And he stood up there and just opened it all up, and it all made sense. So all those previous lessons kind of opened up the world, and our desire increased as we were looking at that. And that has set the tone for everything we've looked at since then. So when I look at kingdom talks about that very same thing, as you mentioned it about the lesson the last few weeks. Kingdom talks about anything. This journey has started thousands and thousands of years ago. There have been those who have searched for truth and have given their all in that area. So here we are now, and we're at this place, we're at this here and now, and understanding of a boom and seeing who we are and being at that place of awareness brings all of that back to life. And so when you talk about, Pastor mentioned, Audra saying, I'm out there in left field, you are out there in left field because this may have been a lesson that started thousands of years ago that you are bringing balance to now because your place of understanding is so it can open up. And it is also going to influence what lessons we and others who search for truth talk about in the future. So this here and now is, in this place of understanding and seeing a boom is everything. This sets the tone for what has happened, or brings to life what has happened in earth and what is to come. So this oneness, this uniqueness, this place of rebirth, this place of understanding, this place of creativity, this place of life is all talking about being in the kingdom. And that's what it means by it's all around you. It overtakes you. We become the life of the universe. And all that is what you're going to speak now. It's going to influence everything. So that's all I want to add.
Thank you. And that said a mouthful, because you're right, because Ron, when we talk about kingdom being in me, kingdom is about power. Kingdom is about being able to birth something. But kingdom starts when I understand, and this is what we've been doing, when I take sovereignty over my thoughts, when I rein my thoughts in, and I no longer see myself as the human who has no power. I see myself as one with a womb, and I am full of power. Power to do what? To create. That is how, through my thoughts, through my words, my deeds, and my actions, I now bring the creative power, the will of God, the creative energy into this earth realm. So if we say beginning takes me back to beginning, a kingdom takes me back to beginning each time, you are right, because I am the creator that creates something new every day based on my deeds, my thoughts, my actions, my words. This is very powerful, and I agree with everything you said. And I think we're saying the same thing, and it's not that we're saying it differently. We just are bringing it to you two different ways, but it's from the same well that we're dipping from. So it's the same thing. Any other questions or comments? And thank you, Ron.
Yes, this is Angela. I want to go back to the beginning when you was talking before you, at the very first beginning. I was about to bust. I have to tell you, I saw a couple of days ago, I had a dream that Pastor Richard had told me to, he called me, or I called him and he told me to say something about to speak about the Lord's Prayer. And I was standing in front of some people and I was looking for you. And I said, who is Kathy Smith? And I was looking and you came beside me as I was standing there and you said, and I was asking, I said, what was it? What was it? And I knew what I was supposed to say, but it was like I was trying to find what I was supposed to say and I couldn't. And you said, you know what to do, you know what you're supposed to do, you do it. And I said, I know who I am and I know what I was supposed to do. And I was saying, God, what does this mean? I don't understand it. So I just left it alone. And when you got on the phone, it came back to me. And when you said the Lord's Prayer at the same time, I was telling my fiance the same thing. That's what God was showing me, your experience. I don't understand it all, but I know I had to tell you that's what he showed me.
And I appreciate that because that's confirmation. Because I will tell, you can ask Linda, Ron, Pastor, as I'm showing this to them and what I've seen, I'm like, am I losing it? But I know what I know what's on the inside of me. And when you know what you know what you've been shown, you know you're not losing it, but it sure helps to have that confirmation that says to you, you're on the right track. And I'm excited about this today because it is going to open us up to understand that we are definitely on the right track. And we've been on the right track. And we are just getting closer to being able to see how to change things. Because if you will remember, last week, the last thing I heard when I came back from the other side of hearing this lesson was Ron said, we taught all of this about Barabbas and Jesus, but what do we do with it? What does it mean? And that's kind of how we ended the lesson. I can't remember the answer that came, but I knew that was the question, and that every lesson that's being taught. Now, question is, what do we do with it? How does this empower me to see who I am? Now, here's another piece of the puzzle, and thank you, Angela. And before I move forward, anyone else, is this resonating with you? Is it making sense? If not, question me, because I'm going to lay this foundation because things really start to open up even more when we go to Revelation. Any other questions or comments at this point?
Before you get to Revelation, if I may.
You may.
When you mentioned, or when Barabbas and Jesus were mentioned from previous discussions, I would that you would keep in mind, not you, Kathy, but all of us who are privy to those discussions about Barabbas and Jesus and what it actually means. I would that you keep in mind that Barabbas' name meaning son of Abum. In the Aramaic, it means the son of Abum, Bar-Abba rather. And if you remember, keep that in mind and understand that Barabbas represented the spirituality of our essence, who did not know who it is and reverted to religion and sought to deliver itself by physical means, by using carnal weapons, even though the scriptures say the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And carnal weapons are not always a gun. Carnal weapons is also demonstration, protest, etc. Jesus, being who he is, understood that he is the spiritual essence of who he was created to be, is representative of the spiritual essence that does deliver based upon the principles of spirituality. Our weapons, the weapons of our warfare are not material, they're not carnal. The weapons of our warfare are spiritual, and Jesus understood that. And the spiritual principles he taught that brings about deliverance in the manner that we are to be delivered. So if we keep in mind when we step into Revelation and understanding what was there, these two are entities. Now, also keep it in mind that we are talking about Jesus and Barabbas, two African men, one who is religious, the other who is spiritual, and both of them are under the oppression, and one is convicted and put to death by the Romans. This is a third entity interjecting into the spiritual and the religious mindset of these two men. And if you look at the mindset of these two men, what we actually see is the mindset of the African when it comes to spirituality and religion and being influenced by a third entity, and that entity being European oppression.
Mm-hmm.
And that will guide us, hopefully, to an understanding of what the scriptures are actually saying to us, and will also help us to understand the reason that we have been taught for all of these years to separate our beliefs about the scriptures from the government, from history, from everything else. When you separate that, you lose all your effectiveness. I'm done.
Thank you, Pastor.
Kathy,
Yes.
this is Barbara and
Hey.
Pastor. One of the things that you said yesterday, Pastor, which is what Kathy is really unfolding in a deeper level, is the weapons of our warfare is knowing who we are. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the key weapon of our warfare. And so you talked about it's not carnal, and Kathy is showing us the deeper aspect of what that means, to be one with a boom through the breath that creates. So that's for us to remember when we're wondering if we're making any difference. If we remember the weapons of our warfare, knowing who we are, and as Kathy unfolds at a deeper level, all we have to do is be that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Barbara. You're right. And it's funny, you guys are bringing it from the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but are mighty through God for the pulling down of all strongholds, for all things that have set itself as a stronghold in my mind to tell me who I am not. And what we are learning is I destroy that stronghold by understanding who I am. And that leads me right to where I was going next. And I appreciate that being said, because when I was looking at this, and I'm like, so I have the creative power in me to birth the will of God into this realm. Because we've been saying, what do we do? What do we do? We see all of the oppression taking place. We see these things happening. We are the generation. We are the kind of man. We are the man with the mind of God in us who understands who he is. And as a result of that, we now will understand, hopefully as a result of deeper understanding even more from today, what it means to be able to destroy those strongholds, to pull down those strongholds and not allow them to erect themselves in our hearts and minds and tell us what we're not, because we will see who we are. And one of the things that helped get me to this point is when Rania was speaking the other week, she mentioned a book on caste, the origins of our discontent, and she spoke of that, and I think we all immediately put it in our basket. And Ron gave me a copy of it. We were getting ready to order it, but he gave me a copy. I have only read the first 17 pages. I'm on like the first page of chapter 2. But I began to realize that there is an adverse power at work showing us who we are not. Because I was talking to Linda, because she has a copy of the book, and she asked me on yesterday, do we have a caste system in America? And for the first time, I was able to say yes, because had we been asked that question prior to understanding who we are, I would have said, no, that's something that they do in India. But now I'm beginning to understand, please mute your phone, that we have been oppressed, and the laws are being written in such a way to keep us in our place. And the caste system talks to keeping you in your place and not allowing you to mix races or mix classes or all of these different things. And it speaks to separation as opposed to unity and oneness. So when I began to see that is the source of our discontent, because when we awaken to who we are, we begin to recognize, you know what? I've been laboring under this burden of being told who I'm not and not seeing and understanding who I am. And as a result of learning who I am, now I am the man with the power to bring about the real change, the everlasting change in this earth realm. So as I began to look at that, I said to Pastor Ron on yesterday, I said, no soldier goes into battle without knowing who the enemy is.
Mm.
And we've been laboring under a false belief that we know who the enemy is. Could someone please mute your phone? Thank you. We've been laboring under a false reality of what we thought the enemy was. And it dawned on me, and I said, as soldiers, we need to know who we're fighting. I was immediately corrected when I hung up the phone, and later that night when I sat down, again I hear, you're not in a battle to destroy anything, because what you're fighting is not people, it's energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. So it is very deliberate that it says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We are in a wrestling match. And in a wrestling match, you don't destroy your enemy. You don't destroy he's not even your enemy. He is your opponent. You don't destroy him. You subdue him. You bring him into submission, and by pinning him, you bring him into submission of your power. And that's what we have been laboring against, the idea. And if you go on from Ephesians 6 and 12 and you go down and you start putting on the whole armor of God, evangelical teaching has taught us you're girding up your loin, going into battle. Your feet are shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. You're putting on the helmet. You're doing all of these things. But if you look at that carefully, you are not putting those things on to go into the battle as far as a war. You are doing those things so that nothing penetrates your thinking that causes you not to be able to stand. That talks about taking a position and a stance and not wavering. That is why I put on the armor, not to fight in the armor. I wrestle and bring what into submission? The energy and the power that has been unleashed from the inception of time that is warring against the kingdom principles of God. That is what I am subduing. That is my opponent. And when we get to Revelations, we will not only understand what that looks like, but we will understand the source of that power and that energy. And when I strike at the source and subdue the source, then the energy can no longer produce. Let's talk about energy for a moment before we even get over there. Energy cannot be destroyed. Energy will do what it was put in the realm to do. If there is an opposing energy in this realm that opposes the ideas of kingdom principles, and it has been here from the inception when I saw Satan fall from heaven like a flash of lightning. That energy is in this realm and has been here. It has been creating from, you can say, Jim Crow laws. You can call it the filibuster. That is just the energy doing what it has been doing from its inception, because it cannot be destroyed. What has to happen to that energy? It has to become subdued by us. We have to subdue it and transform it, because energy will continue to do what it was put in this earth realm to do until there is a man that recognizes that it's not men doing anything to me. It is the root of that energy that is governing their thoughts and their actions and their deeds, and as a result of that, that is causing them to act the way they act. And we'll get deeper into that in a moment. One of the things, and I'm going to interject this here, reluctantly, against my better judgment, because I didn't want to do it, my nephew just insisted that I look at a movie called Them that's on prime time. I didn't want to look at that. But he was like, you got to see this, because I think I see something there spiritually. And he was right. When I looked at this, it's a 10-episode anthology. It looks at racism in the 50s, and it looks at a family moving from the Jim Crow South because they have been abused and their child has been killed by white supremacy and racists and all of these things, and they go to Compton. When they go to Compton to set up housekeeping, they're the only black family in the neighborhood. This family goes through hell because not only do the neighbors come up against them, establishing each of their own minds, even from the smallest child in the family to the father, they all are dealing with what the picture presents it as demons. But what it is spiritual strongholds, spiritual wickedness in high places that's having an effect on their minds, telling them who they are not. And throughout all 10 episodes, they're warned against these principles, and the mother even ends up in the asylum because she thinks she's lost her mind because this energy is so strong. But you don't see until episode 8 and 9 what happened in 1930. And on before that family ever thought of coming to this area, some evil things happened in that town, on that street, in that area. And that's the same energy that is still permeating the atmosphere and the environment there that is warring against them. And you see in the end of episode 10, they are able to pull down these strongholds when they come to the realization of what it is that they're warring against. I lay that foundation because it was very much spiritual to what we're dealing with now. We keep fighting the wrong enemies. We keep looking for enemies. I remember the last lesson that I taught in Greater New Faith before I went out with my knee surgery was you don't have an enemy. I'm not looking for an enemy. I'm looking for the oppressor. And if the oppressor is the negative energy that is telling me who I'm not, then I've got to subdue that and understand who I am and what I have the power to do. That's what all of that ties into, and it shows you that very clearly. And we say sometimes Hollywood can tap into spiritual things because they're open to create something. And they can see some things that are right in front of us that we missed. So as we begin to lay this thing out and recognize, I am not wrestling against flesh and blood. The weapons of my warfare are not carnal. Everything about me is spirit being. And I come from a place of spirit to birth the will of the Father who is spirit into this earth realm. That is the kingdom principle that is at work on the inside of me. Questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Was there someone going before me?
Can I go for you, Rev?
Yeah.
Kathy, when you talk about energy, and energy, can energy be absorbed from someone, or can energy be transformed from someone? You understand what I'm getting to?
I think I am understanding.
If you don't,
you mean like the transferring of by the laying on of hands, or
sometimes you don't have to lay on the hand. Sometimes you don't have to lay on the hand. You just be in that presence of that person. You be in the presence around people, and you can absorb their energy or absorb what they're trying to put out, if it's negative or positive. Now you understand.
I'm glad, yes, and I'm glad you asked that question, because what we have been laboring under, Charles, is exactly what you just described. We have already absorbed the energy that tells us who we're not. If there's a caste system here at play against us, an invisible system that we didn't even know we were laboring under, why is it that I try so hard to be something that I'm not? I have been sold a bill of goods that says, in this country, you'll be all right if you act a certain way, if you speak a certain way, if you look a certain way. But in all of doing these things, I'm denying the true essence of who I am. If I deny that, then we might give you a seat at the table, but the table might be in another room, because you're never going to be where I am. You're never going to be where the Caucasian is. We have absorbed that energy, and we have been warring against ourselves, because we buy into, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't do these things. Or either we see someone break through the glass ceiling, so to speak, as a Tim Scott. And I'm going to use him as an example. And I'm going to get up on the world stage and say, as a black man, I've had some encounters that were uncomfortable, that looked like it could have been racism, but really there is no racism in this country. I have to deny everything, every experience, to try to have a seat at the table and I'm absorbing that energy that says, oh, you did that, now you're good enough. So yes, we do absorb the other energy. That, what we have absorbed, is what we have been laboring under. And that is why it has been so difficult to understand how to break free. Where we're going today is, how do we break free? And like I said, this is not the end all to be all. This is laying a foundation. Questions or comments?
Can I speak for Pastor
Kathy.
Pastor, may I?
Okay, go ahead.
back to Charles's question. You speak of energy. Energy resonates, just like everything in the universe resonates. And when we are at peace and when we understand who we are, it's a different resonance. And I understand exactly what Charles is talking about, because my sister and I were in a restaurant, and we were by this table with two other women, and we didn't hear what they said. But Charles, we felt the dissonance. We felt the energy coming from that table, and it was totally. I labeled it evil, because it just created something in me that said, oh, this is not good, blah, blah, blah. I had no idea what they were saying. But it was an energy that did not resonate with my energy. And so, you can pick up on that and perceive that and know that.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Does that make sense, Charles? Does that answer your question?
That answered my question wholeheartedly, because we've been laboring under that energy for so long now. And during this time you talked about it, I see it and I feel it.
Because we forget that energy creates, and we forget that I am energy, and I have the power to create righteousness, peace, balance. I can bring all of that into existence. But if I don't know what I have, that's just like me reaching $1,000 to a 3-year-old. They don't know the value of money, so they put it in their mouths, chew on it, tear it up, and then lay it down and walk away. Because I don't know what this is. We knew that we were energy. We've discovered that, but we don't know what power we have to really change things, because we've not understood what we were working against, the forces that were working against us. And so that question and Barbara's answer and how we're looking at this just lays an even clearer foundation for us to understand this is always at work 24/7. And it has been producing negativity and telling us who we are not. Now that the eye is open, the third eye is open, we know who we are. It's beginning to resonate, and I can see who I am. But even seeing who I am, what does that mean? If I can see who I am, then what should I be doing? That's what we will see when we get to Revelation. Anyone else, Pastor? Pastor?
Okay, since he's not
Anyone
talking, I was gonna say, Kathy, this is Audrey. Good morning.
Good morning.
I see this very clearly, and it brings, and in speaking about Barabbas and Jesus, it just brought back to me that lesson that I taught on the struggle of opposites. How yes, as Africans, in being brought to this side of the world, we've struggled with the energy of assimilating and the energy of being told who we were not and who others thought we were, and having to accept that. But yeah, you're bringing it all together for me in terms of the fact that even though we can be pulled in various directions, and there, with all the energies out there, yes, we have to come to some, if we can get to some point where we understand who we are and that we are in fact dealing with energies that resonate within us. And I think
Yes.
a lot of people are unbalanced because they don't realize that energy is resonating with them, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
Yes, we do
Right.
pick up energy from other places, Charles, and it all comes inside us and it resonates in a particular way that creates depression,
Yes.
that creates whatever. And until we recognize that that is what we're dealing with and that we need to corral it, bring it together and recognize, by recognizing exactly who we are, and that we can make it what it should be for us. Until we realize that, yes, we are a little lost, I guess.
And we have been, Audrey. We have been in, remember we talked about the wilderness experience, and it can be a good place or a bad place, but it's also a place of wandering. And we've been wandering, trying to figure out, first of all, we feel a certain type of way, like, why us, Lord? Why does everybody in the world have to hate us? That is our destiny. That is what we were given to carry, so that we would stand the test of time and still, even in the face of that type of oppressive hatred, be loving kindness and birth that into the earth. We have the capacity to be able to do that. And Linda just reminded me of something. She walked in the room and said, when you were talking about them and what happened in that movie, that energy didn't lie dormant in that neighborhood just because it was only a all white neighborhood until that one family there moved in. That energy kept creating hatred until the family got there. Then it was unleashed on them. So when we talk about something, the sins of the father visiting from generation to the next generation, we never question, how does that happen? It's all through energy, because what it puts out, if it is not reined in, it will continue from generation to generation to generation to create division, divisiveness, hatred, not liking you just because the color of your skin. All of these things are what we've been laboring under, and that's the energy that we've absorbed into ourselves. And as a result of that, it has jaded everything we've ever attempted to do, because we lost sight of who we are. Now it's being shown to us, it's no accident that it started resonating in all of these lessons, that you all are now seeing, you're awakened to who you are, the third eye, everything is resonating with you. And I have to say, with the most stringent, oppressive voter right laws and all of these things being passed right now, I've been wondering, why doesn't that scare me? Why isn't that moving me to a place of dread? I didn't have this lesson then. It hadn't been shown to me then. I just know that I could not get caught up in, because that becomes an entanglement, and it sidetracks me from staying focused on what I'm supposed to be doing and what we are supposed to be doing. And when this began to be shown to me, I was like, now it makes sense. We have to see this now, because these are the harsh times. This is the number of man. We are living in the number of man of the 666. And I will explain that when we get to that chapter. But it's not a scary thing, because we have the power to reverse it from what I've been shown. And so I hope the conversation is making sense and resonating with you, because I believe that every lesson has led us to today, so that when we begin to see this, and what happens beyond today and tomorrow, whatever, however long it takes to lay this out, when we walk in it, the change will be swift and it will be felt immediately and it will be seen immediately, but not from a place of hatred, not from a place of trying to destroy people, but from a place of subduing the oppressive energy and transforming it into enlightenment. When we know how to do that, it doesn't matter what men in power or men who think they have power can do, because they can only do what that energy is allowing them to do. When we change that energy and cut it off as its source, as we learn with the vine, when Ron taught the lesson on the vine, when the branch is cut off from the source of energy, it will wither up on its own and cease to be. So my job isn't to go around trying to cut the vines loose. My job is to go after the root source and to drain it of its energy and power, and everything else will dry up automatically. Does that make sense? Pastor, are you back on the line? Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, Pastor. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go if he's not.
I don't know if he's on anymore.
Hey, you reminded me of something when we were talking. We talk about all the energy and the negative and the positive things. I'm reminded of Solomon in Ecclesiastes talking about there not being anything new under the sun. So I look at this, and as we talked about this, we talked about kingdom, and you talked about all the verses, all the lessons coming up to this point. It's looking at the kingdom and seeing that everyone who's searching for truth, we're unraveling that now. We're bringing understanding, we're bringing awareness to it. All of it is still energy, right? So that also says that all of that negative things that have happened in the past is also being exposed right now. All the negative things, and that's why we're looking at Black Wall Street. That's why we're seeing all the things that everything is being exposed, the good and the bad. So the opportunity is the African is seeing this, and what we see is it not only happened to you, it happened for you. It happened for the reason that you can bring peace, you can bring clarity, you can bring love, you can bring kindness, and all of that stuff that you were looking at in the past is not so you could conform, but that you can bring understanding to the earth and unravel what needed to be unraveled. So all that negative stuff that you talked about in the movie and all the stuff, it just reminded me of that when I thought about what Solomon says, that we're at the place now where it is not, and trust me, I heard what Barbara said loud and clear because I had a similar experience. But, when I step back from it and look at it, I like where I am now. And as you said, a lot of things don't scare me or bother me like they may have even a year ago. So it's almost like, okay, the action that is to be taken is to gain understanding and recognition of who you are. It's not that anybody else needs to do anything. So in our understanding and our transforming ourselves is transforming the energy. So that's that. I just want to add that because it is true that the African is the most hated being on the face of the earth, but all of that is being face to face now with truth, and we're to gain understanding and transform that energy.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned Black Wall Street, because if you look at what happened at Black Wall Street, the same energy that caused that to happen is the same energy that caused the Timothy McVeigh in our time to blow up a government building, killing children in Tulsa, Oklahoma, same energy. And I'm not just saying Tulsa, that is an example of that unregenerated energy, that unrenewed energy, that energy that has not been subdued, is still permeating the atmosphere, and that's in air, that's all over this country. And that's what we are being awakened to, that is very real. The reason things keep happening, that is why when I hear people say, the politicians and the pundits that are talking about everything that's happened, these are the most oppressive voter rights laws, and it's going back to Jim Crow era. This is because we're dealing with the same energy. That we're dealing with, this energy has been in the environment, in this atmosphere since the inception of time. But because we didn't know, we look at men, we want a Mitch McConnell to stop. We want a whatever that other man's name is, McConnell. We want all of these people to stop. I can't look at people anymore because it's not flesh and blood. I've got to understand who my opponent is, and it is the negative energy that is not allowing, that has kept me from understanding that I am to be birthing kingdom principles which will bring balance to everything around me into this realm. And if I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, don't send me in the battle because I don't know who my enemy is. So we've been trying to war, and we've been told some things by evangelicals that were so wrong about how I'm supposed to approach this thing. All of this is an internal war going on in the battleground of my mind. And when I make up my mind to be who I am, and I'm going to say it the way I've heard one of them say it, they talk about quit being pitiful and see that you're powerful. Well, that is true. We are not pitiful. We are powerful. We just didn't know it because everything has told us that we're not any of those things. You're not smart enough. You're not powerful enough. We can write laws. Charles asked, and I was going to interject this later, but I think it fits here. Pastor said a couple of weeks ago, and I just jotted it down, that the scripture was written for the African. Charles started last week's lesson asking about the laws that were being written, and a whole conversation ensued about the laws of the land. And I realized that it is the laws of the land that the Caucasian has used to ensnare us and to control us and to oppress us. If I allow myself to stay in an oppressed state, then I hunker down under those oppressive laws and think, well, there's nothing more I can do because they got the power. But what they are afraid of when they keep saying we can't let woke people do things is that they know when we wake up in power. That's what the fear for them is. We will awaken in power, but our power won't look like their power because we are not oppressors. We are the essence of womb, and therefore we bring loving, kindness, peace, and harmony, the ability to be one with everything around me. That's what we birth into this realm. And that's what they're fighting against, because if everyone gets along, there is no master race. There is no one to lord over anyone else and tell them I'm superior to you, because we live in peace, a place of peace and harmony. That's what is being fought against, and that's that energy that has been oppressing and suppressing us and telling us, you can't do anything about what we do to you. We will shoot you down in the street. We will kneel on your neck and kill you in front of everyone. And there is not a thing you can do about it, because we've done it. We have gone to church on Sunday, gone back and did lynchings and took postcards and sent out the lynchings and praised God anyhow. We are going to see the power that religion plays when we get to Revelation, and how all of this is changing because we have decided that we want to know who we are, and we believe what we see. And it's uprooting some of the misconceptions and the power that religion has had over us to hold us in bondage. We are uprooting every bit of that now, because we are not taking fluffy little answers anymore from religion to tell me who I am. We're looking inside of ourselves and letting it resonate from the master himself to say, I want you to see this. And it resonates, and we know it's truth, because Revelation is not the book that's just at the end of the Bible. revelation goes on daily, but we missed it because we've been talked out of believing who we are. So we also think we can't hear anything. Revelation goes on when we sit with the Creator and understand that I am who you say I am, and I seek to bring balance to this realm. Things begin to open up, and we are more open than we have ever been through every lesson that has been taught leading up to where we are. And I dare say when we move beyond this lesson, we will be even more powerful than we were leading up to where we are right now. Questions or comments? Because I'm ready to move to Revelations, but I wanted to lay that. Are we understanding kingdom? Go ahead, Sheldon.
Yeah, I wanted to speak about energy before we moved forward, and it relates to all of this. Instead of saying negative energy, but first, energy, vibration, frequencies, all of those things are the same. And what we're dealing with is not necessarily negative energy. It is a very, very low vibration or very low frequency. And what that is that is an energy that is stuck with or aligned with so much with just survival and fear. And when you look at survival, when you focus on survival, it is the possibility or the fear that you might not survive or you have to fight to survive. That is also the same thing as not being aware of kingdom, because to be aware of kingdom, the need to survive ceases to exist, is no longer there, is not something that, whether subconscious or conscious, it's not something that is present. So in all of these situations where all of these physical manifestations presented themselves to be negative, that was coming from a place or an energy of something or someone that was stuck in survival mode at a very, very low frequency for which they were disconnected. And all of us actually feel the energy of others. So like going into the restaurant, etc., something that also is akin or related to survival and fear is hate. The reason why there is hate is because I do not like the thing that I am afraid of, fearful of, that I think might destroy me or actually lead to my destruction. It is a threat for me surviving. So all of that low energy, especially when you're at a higher energy, it feels heavy and it wears on you, because what it's actually doing is it is bringing your energy down. Having on the full armor of God is being, and can't remember exactly what the verse is. I'm terrible at quoting things, but in the Lord's Prayer, in terms of the protection, it is basically, in a sense, saying to protect me from being affected by these lower energies, so to speak. Now, when we engage in those things or are affected, like voter rights and things like that, that is an attempt by those who are at a low energy level trying to survive, and of course it being done to be driven by fear and hate, and then to engage in that ourselves is to get caught up in the same loop of now being concerned with survival, and there's a threat and there is fear, which of course brings our own energy down. That is why initially Barabbas, I always mess up that man's name. Barabbas was essentially, in a sense, a radical, and he was warring against the state. He was warring against the Roman Empire. Jesus was not warring with them, and Jesus was telling the people who was following him, yeah, give them whatever they want, just ignore them, don't pay them much attention, which was not to engage them or to lower their energies, being concerned with essentially that lower energy. when Barabbas went into the wilderness, he had a chance to basically more so be one in nature, or when we talk about nature, the earth, etc., we're actually talking about kingdom, and we're actually talking about experiencing earth and nature and kingdom. All of that is the same thing. And once you are actually doing that, the need to survival, it dissipates. It starts to cease because there's no longer that idea that I must do all of these things to survive. How Jesus talked about Abwum providing for all of the birds, et cetera, that is akin to what it is to be in nature and come to that realization. And then as a result to raise your energy, raise your frequency, et cetera. The other thing that I noticed was this idea of what the African has felt that it has always had to do to be accepted by the settlers of the, for lack of better words, the New World, or the West, was to actually try to be what the settlers did not see in themselves, and therefore kind to it was all a projection. I noticed everything that you named. I can't remember. It was as you was mentioning them. Every single thing that you were talking about, the African seeks to be accepted and things like that. Those different traits. Those were the exact traits that the others gave the illusion that they have, but they don't actually have. And in order to take that away from another one, then makes them feel like they have it. And that is, once again, engaging in the same exact energy, that same exact energy of feeling less than. The need to take over, have power over, lord over, etc., is because there is a lack of, not a lack, but is the perception of not being good enough. You're not good enough for survival. You're not even good enough, as I'm thinking about it, that attitude thinks that you're not good enough for Abwum. You don't even see yourself part of Abwum. But that engagement at that lower energy was all then seeking and seeing essentially the African seeing himself as the oppressor, and then trying to appease the oppressor for the same exact thing that the oppressor was already lacking or didn't even notice in itself.
And you said a mouthful, and I agree, because it is what I call it, the old bait and switch. That's what's been happening to us. I project to you what I'm really doing and who I really am, and make you think it's something that's lacking in you. That's been happening to us for an eternity. And we are just now getting, and I love how you described the lower frequencies and understanding that this energy is so powerful that we have in us. And I don't know, and Pastor and our teachers helped me with this, I don't even know if they've recognized it. I dare say they did, and that's what caused them to fear us in the beginning, enslave us, and try to browbeat us into just submission from the inception, because I think it resonated with them that we had something powerful that they don't have, and they don't know how to get it. And so therefore, we create our own laws. We create the rules, the scriptures. We tamper with everything, whatever it takes to keep you in a place of bondage. And if we do it the right way, we don't even have to do anything anymore. You will keep yourself in that place because you buy into the lie.
And the buying into lie gives them the false perception that they are surviving. So I don't even know if it is a bait and switch, but I don't even know if it's a wide spread conscious bait and switch. The idea to have somebody chasing something that you don't have, but they're chasing for it and they don't think they have it either, automatically makes me feel like I have it just a little bit more, and so I'm not at the I'm not at the bottom. It actually gives me a little bit security.
Well, if your energy, if your spiritual acumen is based upon what you see with your eyes, then your energy level is always low enough to be overpowered by a higher resonance of energy. If I am a Caucasian and my Christianity, my belief in my Creator is based upon the color of my skin, and truth is based upon what I look like, then my energy level is lower. So those who recognize that are able to overpower me with their energy levels of lies. Example, most of those people who went to that Capitol on January 6th had no intentions of going in that Capitol. However, because of the energy levels of those who feel superior, they fell in line with them, and they were influenced by them. Where does that come from? How did that ever enter the realm of this earth? Well, there is a scripture that says, indeed the man has become like us, like the unique one among us, knowing good and evil. What if he should stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat? He would live forever.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks to the idea, when he says stretch out his hand, that speaks to the idea of believing that it, as a human, is God itself, as opposed to being a spiritual being. This whole concept of energy and spirit are the same, yet there is a difference. Spirit and energy are the same, even though energy is the substance that is used for a manifestation. Without the energy, there are no thoughts, there are no principles. And without principles and thoughts, there are no manifestations. So, to put your hand, to reach and try to control the essence of life itself, which means in this material world, controlling the wealth of this earth, to reach in and make an effort to control that, put yourself in the place of being God. In order to reinforce that, you have to have subjects, and you force people to become your subjects by, first of all, removing them physically from the earth until they get to a place where they fear you enough to fall in line with you and become your subject and do what you or require them to do. And with you having convinced them that one day they might be like you. That in itself is saying that you have made yourself the creator of those who are your subjects. So, in looking at that, we see that this whole idea of energy is recognizing that there is a perpetual motion in this earth. All energy is perpetually moving. It's always in action. The question is, what is the dominant energy? Up until this point, the dominant energy in the earth has been that of religion, manipulating the energy of government. Now entering the earth is a energy of spirituality, understanding who it is and what its purpose is. So there has to be a distinction, a definite distinction made between spirituality and religion. And I see that that's where you're headed, Kathy, with this approach to understanding these scriptures. When we look at Jesus, Barabbas, and the Romans, all of those are conceptual energies. When we look at Jesus, we're looking at spirituality. We look at Barabbas, we are looking at religion. When we look at Rome, we are looking at the hand of the Adam seeking to capture the tree of life. And it is incumbent upon Barabbas to embrace the teachings of Jesus in order for it to be the energy of change for the purpose of bringing a sense of spirituality to even the Romans. And in doing so, it removes from this earth realm a desire to present oneself as being superior to anyone else. We then are able to move in this realm as we were created to move in this realm. The things that we have been taught as being from the scriptures are really principles of servitude and not principles of service. Principles of servitude that we have been taught from the scripture is to be comfortable being a slave. Principles of service is what we are being taught now. When the scripture speaks about being servant, it's talking about serving humanity for the benefit of humanity, not for the benefit of self. This is the type of energy that has to be transformed. And the transformation of energy, what does it look like? What does it look like when it is transformed? We saw a transformation of energy. We saw a spiritual move take place in Charleston when those 9 people were murdered. What did we see? We saw the manifestation of spirituality when one of the women came forth and said, I forgive you for what you did. That in itself is a reflection of the kingdom being within. That is also a reflection of Barabbas becoming, embracing the teachings of Jesus as it comes out of the wilderness. We have seen sporadic bursts of this in the past, but we have not seen a continuous stream of energy presenting itself or interjecting itself into this chaos for the express purpose of bringing order to it. In the past, what we have seen is energy being interjected into a system for the purpose of changing a system that is based upon everything that is antithetical to the scriptures. And that is not going to happen. In order for spirituality to be what it is created to be, the system itself must be destroyed. And what I mean by destroyed, I don't mean obliterated. I mean it must be destroyed. It must be transformed into something that is beneficial. It must be subdued, as the description you gave, Kathy, when you were talking about the wrestling. It is not destroying the opponent. It is subduing the opponent, and the opponent bends to your will. What is your will? My will is that all would be saved and none be lost. My will is that all would be disentangled from their belief of superiority, disentangled from their desire to dominate. That is our desire. So subduing that energy results in the unicity or the wonders of mankind in its desire for harmony, and it renders humanity rather to being a more humble body as opposed to being a body of brutality. Now, why is it that we are where we are now? We are where we are now because we are on the precipice of seeing a huge shift. You're not dismayed by all of the voter registration laws that are being passed. Why? Because for the first time, we are not adhering to religion by thinking that we can use weapons of this earth or carnal weapons of demonstrations and legislation in order to change things. For the first time, we are seeing that change comes through spirituality. It's because of the kingdom that's within that change comes. And we are seeing that our desires have brought us to a place of exposing everything that is. Now our desire for disentanglement is going to bring us to a place of change. It is my sincere belief that in 2 years we will see a change that is so different than what we are now until it would be what we are experiencing would be unrecognizable. I have a reason for that because I've been shown that in a way that I will explain somewhere a bit later on, not right now. However, I do want us to understand that if we make an effort to find life, find eternal life in the concept and the principles of religion, then we will be no different than those who have made this earth a place of a living hell. We will be no different than they are, because when we do that, we will be not only thinking with carnality, we will be acting with carnality. And when you think and act with carnality, it leads you to seeing with your eyes and not your eye. And when you see with your eyes, you begin to react to what you see as opposed to responding to what you know or responding to who you know you are. We are the essence of the one who created us. We are the essence of Elohim. We are not the essence of human. We are the essence of Elohim. Human is simply Elohim in bodily form. Human is simply the flesh that the spirit lives in. Human is simply a house, a place of habitation for the spiritual energy of our being. And if we see the end all as being human, that is where our mistake begins. The reason it is imperative that the human sees the body die is because if the human does not see the body come to a place of demise, the human will believe that the body is what makes it God and what makes it Elohim, rather than understanding that the life of the body comes from the reality that the entity in it is spiritual. It's spiritual life itself. It is not the reverse of that. So in conclusion of what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to get across, I'm making every effort to get across, is this: we cannot lose sight of the reality that it is on the shoulders of Barabbas, symbolically speaking, of course, it is on the shoulders of Barabbas to understand that it is not to have its habitation in the wilderness. The wilderness is a place where it learns who it is and where it learns how to embrace the teachings of Jesus. And when those teachings are embraced, there is a transformation that takes place. Now the son of Arun begins to manifest as the son of Arun rather than manifesting as a human. And when the son of Arun, when the son begins to manifest as it was created to manifest, It is at that point that the wrestling match is over. That the consciousness of this earth realm that leads to superiority, thoughts of superiority, that consciousness becomes subdued. It is not about the color of the skin. It is about the concept between a Caucasian and the concept of an African. When I made the statement some weeks ago that the scriptures were written to the African, I said it because it's true. That the interlude with the Caucasians comes into play when Rome conquers northern Africa or Palestine, when Rome conquers the African and begins to force it to a place of servitude or slavery. When we understand that this was allowed to take place so that the entity called Adam could become what it was created to be in reality, it is that this is allowed to happen so that we, at this point in our lifespan, would be able to bring this thing to a head. It is no coincidence that this nation was allowed to be as it has been for generations. Whether it be rosewood or whether it be greenwood, the same energy, as you stated, is in play here. And that energy is no different than the energy that will cause Tim Scott to say there is no racism. In an effort to be something that he was not created to be, in an effort to be submissive to its God, in an effort to worship at the throne of its God, it had to give up what it knows it is. It had to walk away from the essence of its being, the pride of its ancestors, in order to embrace that which desires to destroy it. So we are definitely on the right course. And we have our Creator to thank for this because of this pandemic. This pandemic has opened the eyes of so many different people in this earth. But more importantly, it has forced us to be blind to the distractions around us if we were in a building separate from each other. But to be more focused on what is being said and understood than we would be if we were enclosed in a structure. That it would be impossible, improbable, if not impossible, I should say, for those of us, be they from Great New Faith Foundation, the class on Monday night, or people who are not connected to any of those groups, it would be improbable for us to be where we are right now with the understanding, with this combined energy, with one focus only, and that focus being to bring humanity to a place of loving kindness without regard to what it takes to do that, and no matter how long it takes for that to take place. I'm done.
Pastor, you said so much. What I want to do, and it's such a foundation for understanding the energy, understanding spirituality, which is what we are unleashing in the earth realm, the spiritual kingdom of God in this realm is basically the foundation that you laid. And that comes by understanding where the low frequency energy is getting its power from. And that is shown to us in Revelations 13. And we've talked so much about the beast, the mark of the beast, the number 666, the mark being on your forehead and in your hand. And I have heard that for as long as I've been in church. And the Creator said, let me show you what that means. And when you understand this, you will understand who you are and the power that you have to bring and usher in spirituality into this realm. This is like one of the final building blocks, the final piece for you to understand. So what I want to do, if it's all right with everyone, I want to let kingdom resonate. I want us to sit on kingdom tonight. See if you have any other questions, because we've said a lot. And for me, this was digging up for me as this was being shown to me. So many things that I thought I knew and understood, it was digging all of that up, because those were religious ideologies that had been fed to me that I bought into. And now I'm awakened to seeing what truth really is. And truth isn't always what's preached from the pulpit on Sundays. That's what we are being awakened to. And the revelation is continuous, because we are being shown truth and it's being spoken to us. If we will have an ear and hear, it is right here. I do a new thing. Will you not recognize it? It's right here. You need to see it. It's not new to me. It is new to you, because it's resonating. It's what God is saying. So what I would like to do is start tomorrow night with questions from Kingdom and go right into Revelations 13. I employ the teachers to look at that too, because I dare say, I think when you look at it, it's going to open to you, and we're going to be shown what the beast is. We're going to be shown the dragon. We're going to be shown the 666, and we're going to understand all in this realm right now of what we're dealing with, what it means to have that mark, and the buying and the selling, every bit of that opened up. And it's not what we've been told. It's the bill of goods that we've been sold, but it's not what it really is. So I would like to pick up here tomorrow and lay it out some more and talk about it for as long as we need to, because for me, and Pastor's been doing this for a while, we are digging up everything that we've been given that's not true. And we're shining a light of understanding from a place of understanding spiritually what these things mean, and not what has been spoon-fed to us to keep me in a place of bondage. For example, slaves, obey your masters. That's in the scripture. But God didn't require slaves. He doesn't want us to be slaves. So I'm saying we are now going through with a fine-tooth comb, and it's being shown to us that to walk in this power, you've got to understand what has been shown to you that has been wrong. Let's open it up, dig it up, so you can see who you are and move forward. So what I'm asking, if you're on the line today and it's possible for you to be back with us tomorrow to get part 2, let's come back on tomorrow at 6 and answer any questions now that you've had time to sit with Kingdom, because Kingdom just resonated with me when I began to look at everything that's been laid out, and everything that everyone said has taken us to a deeper understanding. Now let's look at what is really being said in chapter 13. So can we do that, please, Pastor?
Yes, I think I know we can, and we will. I had a revelation. I understand the 42 months. I know what it means.
When you said it, I already knew. It resonated time. You said it, the 42 and the 2.
I know what.
You said in 2 years.
I know what the 42 months are.
You want to say it today, or are you going to say it tomorrow?
I want to put it all together first, because if I deal with it now, it's going to fragment where we're headed. Because it needs to be done in what is it?
I don't even know. I don't want to say sequential, because it's not sequential. There's nothing sequential order here.
No. It needs to be done in concert with the rest of that. The context of it. Yeah, it needs to be done contextually, because if it's not done contextually, it won't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the numbers, hand, head, heart, all of those things mean something, that we've been told one thing, but it has a deeper meaning of that. And that's what we've been laboring under, those false assumptions. And that's where we will pick up tomorrow night, and then tie it all together. If we get to the end tomorrow night, we'll tie it all together and just see where we go from there.
Tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
Yes. I appreciate all of you so much, and I thank you for your time today, and I look forward to being with you tomorrow night at 6.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
Thank
Have
you,
a good day.
Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kathy.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.